Hey everyone, it's Curtis, and I'm back again with another video, and we've finally made it to the final section of our Wonderkids list, and we're going to be going over attackers. In the first half of this video, I'm going to be going over the best players, and in the second half, I'm going to be going over the best bargains. I'll only be covering 17 of these players, and there's 77 in total in this list, so if you'd like to download the list, it will be down below in the description. Our first player is Kylian Mbappe. He makes it easily into the best of my Wonderkid list, because he could easily be like just the straight up best player in the game. He'll be 20 years old at the beginning of a save, and he'll have a 181 current ability. But good luck trying to sign this guy from PSG, as he's virtually unsignable. I'm not going to talk about this guy too much because everyone's already aware of how good he is. But I definitely want to see how he turns out 10 years in the future. And we see he moves his current ability up to 196. And just to let you know, 200 current ability is the highest possible. The guy is as close to perfect as it can get. The media description for him is legendary attacking midfielder, and I still feel like that's an understatement. But yeah, there's not much really to say other than this guy's amazing. If you're able to sign him, kudos to you. You have the best player in the game on your team. Next up, we have Ansu Fati. He is at a young age of 16 years old, but already has a current ability of 120. And he does have a release clause of £42.5 million at the start of his save, so if you're able to spend the cash, I mean, he's probably going to be worth it. Technical attributes he's definitely pretty good in already at 16, but he is lacking in mental abilities, except for determination and flair, obviously. I mean, off the ball, I guess, is pretty good too. But those definitely will improve over time. Let's go ahead and actually take a look here. We see that he actually jumps up to 188 current ability. And yeah, mental attributes have definitely gone up pretty much across the board. And yeah, all the technical attributes also got boosts. One thing of note is PSG signed him. So literally Kylian Mbappe and Ansu Fati are on the same team. And those are the two best strikers in the game. Yeah, that seems a little unfair. Next up, we have Rodrigo. He starts off at 130 current ability, 18 years old. But he won't come cheap if you do want to buy this guy. He's going to be about £124 million. And just like our previous player, he's got some pretty decent technical abilities for being so young. And the mental attributes, they're pretty good. They're a little bit better than our last player, but we like to see those come up a little bit. As we do see him in the future, he's joined Liverpool and he moves up to 180 current ability. Not much to complain about this guy. I mean, I guess long shots at 13 is a bit low. Maybe try to improve that. I mean, it did start off at a 9, so it has gone up by 4 points over 10 years. I'm a bit surprised that his heading is actually at a 12 for being so short. So I feel like I got to give some props to this guy for having that stat. Next up, we have Vinicius Jr. He starts off at 18 years old, 144 current ability, and he'll demand about a £103 million price tag. He's already looking like one of the best in the world at just 18 years old, so we can definitely see that he'll probably develop into one of the best. As we look here, he turns, to 173 current ability, and pretty much just all of his stats have skyrocketed. His finishing improved from a 12 to a 15. He's actually moved up his free kick taking from 8 to a 12, so that's decent. And I'm enjoying how well-rounded he is in the mental attributes. And for our next player, we have Jadon Sancho, who starts off at 19 years old, 150 current ability, and he'll come out about £125 million if you want to purchase this guy. Yeah, don't worry. This isn't my bargain list. My bargain list is going to be in the second half. I'm not saying 125 million is a bargain by any means. I'm just going over this player because I think he's one of the best in the world. I guess the only one critique I could make about this guy is that I wish his determination was a little bit higher. But when we look to the future here, we see he moves himself to a 172. So the determination didn't seem to really affect how well he developed. I mean, maybe he could have developed a little bit better if he had a bit better determination. That's not really for me to say. But anyway, he's definitely one of the best. Turning himself into a 172, that's nothing to scoff at. I guess one thing I could note is that maybe you want to focus on his passing, because in my save, he starts off at a 12 and it only gets up to a 13. So maybe try to get that a little bit higher if you do end up getting this player. Next up, we have Felix, who's 19 years old and has a current ability of 149. And yeah, his price tag is not cheap. £314 million, which I think is his release clause. I'm not too sure. But yeah, if you're able to sign this guy in the first year of a new FM save, you probably deserve some kind of achievement. When we look at his attributes, even at 19, he looks freaking like a world beater already. I guess if I had to nitpick, his long shots at 11 is kind of disappointing for him being kind of an attacking midfielder that can play striker as well. When we have a look at him in the future, he turns himself to 170 current ability. And yeah, just has a couple of his attributes that have gone up by 1 or 2 points. He didn't even really need to develop that much to be one of the best ever, because he already starts off at one of the best ever at 19. So yeah, just a great player. Not really much to cover other than this guy's great. And for our second to last player that I'm going to be covering, I have Mason Greenwood. He's 17 years old, starts off at 126 current ability, and he'll come at about £125 million price tag. He's got some of the more important technical attributes already taken care of. And then his mental attributes, he's got like the more key ones like determination and flair. Off the ball is already at a 13, so that's good. And when he develops, he moves himself up to a 164. And I do see some holes in his play, unlike some of the other players, like say passing's only at a 12. And some of his mental attributes are a bit lower than I was hoping they would turn out to be. But he's still easily one of the best strikers in the game. So if you're able to get a hold of him, great job. And our last player, we have Arlen Holland, who starts off at 18 years old, 143 current ability. And sometimes you can find him for about 15 million pounds. It really depends on the club that you're at. The higher reputation of club you're at, probably the cheaper price you're going to have to pay for this guy. But yeah, this guy seems like all the rage in terms of a lot of football manager players and even football fans in general. And when you look at his stats, the guy is just all about scoring goals, finishing 16. Even his penalty taking is at 15. He's great at scoring goals. And when we take a look into 10 years in the future, he moves up to 156 current ability. I actually thought that was going to be a little bit higher. Maybe in this save, he didn't develop as nicely as he probably could have in maybe your save. I did notice his long shots actually went from a 13 to a 12, so I'm not too sure why that went down, but maybe make sure he doesn't lose any of those stats in your save. But in terms of just a natural goal scorer like this guy is, he's one of the best. And honestly, for the price tag, he could be considered one of my bargains, but I went ahead and just put him in my best overall players. Definitely worth picking up if you're able to. And as we move on to my best bargains, we have my favorite bargain personally. We have Tiago Almeida. You'll find him at 18 years old. He's 120 current ability, and you can find him for about 7 million pounds, which is an absolute steal for how good this guy is. And what's great about this guy is you can sign him and put him in your squad immediately as one of your starting players. And after 10 years, we'll see he moves his 120 up to a 171. And I'm really enjoying how he turns out. His technical attributes, he's pretty much got everything covered in terms of attacking-minded players. Mental attributes as well are pretty much covered across the board that you want to see. Really good player. Definitely worth the 7 million pounds if you're able to pick him up. Definitely do so. He's one of the best. And probably just one of the only downsides is that when you do sign this guy after a few years, probably some of the top clubs is going to come knocking to pick this guy up. So have fun trying to ward them off from taking your best player. Next up, we have Nantou Univar. He's at a young age of 16 years old, 90 current ability, and you can get him for a very cheap price of 1 million pounds. His attributes are obviously a little lower than Almeida, but he's also 2 years younger. So he's got two extra years of development to be had, but he's already got dribbling at 14, finishing at 15, technique at 15. He's got the baseline stats that he needs to turn into one of the best strikers. And after 10 years, we see that he actually does turn out to be one of the best at a 164 current ability. Just a couple of attributes I want to go over here. He moved his long shots from an 11 to a 14 after 10 years, and also his passing from a 13 to a 17. And as expected, his mental attributes have all gone up. But for 1 million pounds, that is a bargain. Next up, we have another 16-year-old, Sebastiano Esposito. He starts off at 110 current ability, and you can find him for about 2.5 million pounds. He's going to be definitely an attacking-only minded player. As we look here, his markings at a 3, tackling at a 4. Don't rely on him to defend whatsoever. I can tell you that right now. But honestly, his mental attributes are actually pretty good for being just 16. Let's see how he develops. He moves himself up to a 168. And when we take a look at his technicals, he's moved all of his mid-range technicals from 10 years ago to high-end, and I really like to see that. This guy's a little taller, and he's got heading of 13, so, I mean, just keep that in mind that he can head the ball a little bit. He's not going to be no Peter Crouch or anything, but he's going to be decent at that. And he's got that 16 strength that'll also help him out for that. And for our next player, we have Degnand Wilfred Nantou. Starts off at 16 years old, 70 current ability. You can find him for about 1.5 million pounds. He's got a lot of low attributes, but he's decent in the things that he is decent at, such as finishing, first touch, heading, technique. And then he's got good mental, like determination at 13, flair at 13. But when we see how he develops, he moves himself up to a 157 current ability and has actually improved himself in some of the stuff that he wasn't actually that great at. So like such as dribbling started off at an 11, but now it's a 15. Long shots started off at a 6, but now it's 11. Passing was a 4, now it's an 11. Really nice player, especially considering the price tag being so low. Next up, we have Pedro de la Vega. He starts off at 18 years old, 114 current ability, and also can be found for about 1.5 million pounds. Now, unlike most of the other players on this list, his finishing is actually something that is left to be desired. It starts off at just an 8, so maybe he's not the best at scoring goals, but he does have a long shot at 13, so he's going to be good at like in and around the edge of the box. And after 10 years, he moves himself up to 156 current ability. And his finishing didn't really improve that much. It only went from an 8 to a 9. But do keep in mind, his best role is probably going to be as a winger and not so much as a striker, unless you're like maybe using him as like a false 9 or something like that. Yeah, I'm just not sure if you can rely on this guy as being your like main goal scorer on the team. He's definitely someone that can supplement a goal scorer, but he's good at what he does. I like him a lot. Next up, we have Lowe. He starts off at 17 years old, just a 79 current ability, but you can also find him for about £1.5 million. While he may not be scoring goals for penalties for you, he's definitely going to be scoring goals for you in terms of just open play. I love all the 14s that he already has in the technical attributes, and the 14 heading. Maybe this guy's one of your like target men or something like that. But when we take a look at him in the future, he turns into a 155 current ability. Something of note is actually that he starts off as just a striker, but in this save, he moves up to a winger. And that's kind of interesting because he does have that 16 dribbling and like 17 off the ball. So he's actually really good at that. And he can be a bit sneaky as someone that can just sneak into the box and get those headers in there that may catch the defense off guard. And for our next player, we have Arnor Sigurdsson. He'll be 20 years old, 122 current ability, and you can get him for about £2 million. And he is someone that could potentially be one of your starting players, depending on your club that you're at, obviously. Keep in mind, he is one of the older players on this list at 20 years old, so he already had some development. But after we look in 10 years' time, he moves himself up to a 157 current ability and really rounds out the mental attributes for sure. Has some good technical attributes. None of them are like really stellar. I guess technique is at a 15, but he's got a lot of 14s in there. Definitely a good player, though. I like this guy a lot. As we move into our last two players, these are the two cheapest players on the list. And first up, we have Louis Montiano, who starts off at 17 years old, 85 current ability. You can get him for about £750,000. Good player, but he's definitely going to need development for sure. And as we see in 10 years' time, he moves up to a 141 current ability. He's just a good player to keep an eye on, especially if you're able to get him early in the save for the price tag. You can't really complain. And for our last player, it's our cheapest player. He's Ryan Edmondson. Starts off at 18 years old, 107 current ability, and you can get him for about £650,000. So if you are looking for a good English wonder kid that's a bit cheaper, this will probably be your best bet. Starts off with a decent 13 finishing and a 14 heading, and even a 12 long shot, so he's definitely good at scoring goals. And when we look to the future, he moves up to a 147 and actually increases his heading up to a 16, and finishing only moved up by 1 to a 14, but still a good player at scoring goals. He is one of the taller players on the list, and he's got that 17 strength, so he's going to be good at heading the ball in for you. But that will sadly come to the end of this list here of players that I wanted to highlight. If you wanted to get the rest of the list, it will be down below in the description for you to download. I hope most of these transfer fees are pretty accurate for you guys. It will depend on the club that you're at, so just keep that in mind that you may be paying a little bit more or even a little bit less. It just depends. But I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to leave a like and also subscribe because I will be starting a Football Manager Let's Play, and it most likely will be with Tottenham as Mauricio Pochettino has just been sacked. I did see that Jose Mourinho just got signed, but in my save, I'm going to be the new guy taking over for Tottenham. But I'm Curtis, and I'll see you guys in the next video.